Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with senior columnist Tim Carney. And Tim, public school enrollment is plummeting right now. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, in certain cities, they're seeing dramatic drops. In Los Angeles, they were already down 10% from a decade ago, and huge drops. And in Boston, there was a local op-ed saying Boston is becoming a childless city. The schools, the public schools, seeing huge enrollment drops. And there's a ton of reasons. There's not one simple reason. One is the pandemic. These school systems closed for about a year. And so parents pulled their kids out. They either sent them to private schools that were in person, or they thought, if my kid's going to be home, I may as well homeschool them. You see homeschooling reaching record numbers. But the Virginia election, the governor election, where the Republicans won, that also showed part of what's going on here, which is sort of, instead of you trying to get your schools to work during COVID, you're going ahead and pushing these ideological crusades, whether it has to do with race or transgenderism or anything like that. People see the schools are not addressing the real problems, which include violence as well, but are instead engaged in these sort of ideological culture wars, and that's soured a lot of parents, and not just conservative ones.
This drop in enrollment in the public schools, though, as you sort of alluded to here, is also part of a broader trend of falling birth rates nationally, changing demographics. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no matter what the schools did, the enrollment would be dropping because there simply are fewer children in America today than there were a decade ago. The overall population has gone up, but what you've seen is that the birth rates started falling in 2007, 2008 with the Great Recession, and they never recovered from that Great Recession-driven collapse. And so you do that for 10 years, suddenly you have fewer people who even could be a first grader in your public school. And so this has been going on in the U.S. to some extent since the 1990s, but really since the Great Recession. And so this is going to pose all sorts of problems. I mean, schools shrinking enrollment has some upsides, some downsides, but we're going to have fewer workers in the workforce. We're going to, as a country, have to go through this adjustment to being an older population with fewer kids.
Republicans have sort of for years been pushing these education policies like charter schools and school choice vouchers and sorts of things that haven't really gained a lot of traction over the past few years. Do you think that maybe one upside for this change, at least for Republicans, could be that they might finally have, a justification to really push this in a serious way?
I think that's right. I think that seeing that different schools are taking up either different COVID approaches or different things on these important questions like sexuality is really driving the idea that, well, people should be allowed to choose where they send their kids to school. And I got to imagine that that's going to gain a lot of steam in a lot of states.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Tim and the rest of the commentary team at WashingtonExaminer.com.